Hello and welcome to some more Italian hardware on the edge. So we've got a couple of Extrema Ratio knives in front of us here, and this is one of those knives that has just one of those beautiful names that flows off the tongue and is incredibly memorable. So this is the BF2 CD. Yeah, okay. So that is the name of this knife. And we've got two versions of it here. So we've got one is black and the one is known as Desert Warfare. There are a few other options available as well. So you get a stonewashed one where the blade is a stonewashed stainless. And then there's one that's called a Ruvido, and the best I can sort of figure out is that it's a black stonewash, so you have a little bit of that sort of rough finish. So there you go. I've spoken about the options right up front. In fact, I haven't spoken about all of them. I'll speak about them a little bit later on. So on Extrema Ratio's website, they describe this knife as a full-sized folding knife, especially for military or police operations in the field. And I must say, from a styling perspective, I can see that. So let's get these two guys as a little wrist action there to get him out, get them open, and let you have a look at them. It was a bit soft. Have a look at them while I'm speaking about them. So what we have, and we'll do the same thing as I've been doing of late. We'll do materials first, then we'll speak dimensions, and then I'll speak a little bit about the design and attributes and what I think about the knife. So in terms of materials, the two knives will be exactly the same. It's just a color difference between the two. So what we have is blade steel of Bola N690, and then it's got the coating that they describe as Mil C13924 burnishing. And I mentioned this in one of the other Extrema Ratio knives reviews. I'm assuming that's sort of some military coating that they put on it that is, I would imagine, is quite hardy. So that was on the fixed blade knife that I did. In fact, I've done two fixed blades. The one hasn't been aired yet, but it has had the same coating on that blade. That was the Fulcrum. So if you haven't seen that review, please do go check it out. Handle is anodized aluminium. The pivot is a bronze washer, and then the rest of the stuff is stainless steel. So your thumb tab, the pocket clip, and your Torx screw. So it's Torx hardware, by the way, all around that. And then stainless steel liner as well. Right, so dimensions. We have a blade length of 87 millimeters or 3.4 inches. Blade thickness of 3 millimeters or 0.12 inches. Hope you can see that with the other knife in the background there. The handle thickness, let me pick that up again. So handle thickness excluding clip is 11.5 millimeters and 0.45 inches. Now, I hesitated there for a little bit because it does thicken quite a bit. Let me pick up this one because maybe this is going to be more visible on the black background. There we go. Let's have a look at that one. So you can see there's the thickness that I was speaking about there. That's the 11.5 mils and 0.45 inches. But around the pivot, and it's because of that little lock mechanism that they got, it does thicken a little bit. So at that point, it is 14.5 millimeters or 0.57 inches. Right, okay, we'll speak a little bit more about that in a second. Let's get him back down there. So where were we? Total length is 213 millimeters or 8.4 inches. And then weight, and let's just move this out of the way. We'll lay him in the corner there so you can admire it. And then get, and I've got the stated weights, but as I always do, I just check it against. I've sometimes found stated weights to be way off, and in general, the weights that I have on this scale are in line with WE knives. So let's just have a look. So they say 142 grams, so not a light fellow, but if you consider what kind of knife it is. So considerably heavier on my scale. Was he zeroed? Now that is a good question. So let's zero it. That is closer. So maybe it wasn't zeroed. It's 144 grams. Let's get him back on here and just check. Yes, 144 grams, so 2 grams out. And then we have 5.1 ounces, and they said 5 ounces. So yeah, I mean, yeah, close, close. We won't argue that, and I won't fire my scale. Right. Let's pop the two of them down there, and then speak a little bit about the knife. So, well, let's get them back open. With a little bit of that wrist action going there again. It's not, they're not on ball bearings, so you can see that one's a little bit looser. This one, by the way, is my knife. I've actually had it for quite a while, so it's a little bit more worked in. And this knife, again, I'm extremely thankful for, I may as well do that now, Blades and Triggers, supplying the black one to me for review. So I thought I'd just pull them both on here so you can see what they look like in their different colorways. But as I said, that's actually mine, and it has been loosened up a little bit more. So drop point blade. And by the way, while we're speaking about that, the edge on this guy is really nice and very, very neatly done. And in parts, it's almost like mirror edge. And I've seen that on a few of Extrema Ratio knives, that they do put a good edge on their blades. Something that their countrymen at Fox Knives can maybe learn a trick from Extrema Ratio. Always seem to be bashing Fox Knives, but in general, Fox Knives are well made. There's been some exceptions. Right, so where are we? So flat grind and a deep grind. So there's no swedge or anything. So that grind runs all the way the full width of that blade. And then you've got, you can see the ricasso that runs in a straight line, almost because of the angle of the grind, it blends into the top of the knife. Very squared off back of blade, so no attempts to round or do anything fancy over there, which gives it that kind of military look. And then you've got the thumb tabs there, and you can see the thumb tab on the one side, and if you can see that on the one side is longer than on the other side, and that's to do with the asymmetric shape of the handle because of this little bulge on the handle here. So, they did think about that when they put the thumb tabs on. Well, I may as well speak about the handle right now. So the handle, very slab-sided, except for these two recessed areas cut into the handle there, and that's got nothing to do with the lock itself. It's when the handle is closed, it's so that it gives you a little more space and room to get to those thumb tabs. And now you can see why the asymmetric little thumb tab there, that's just a little bit taller because of this little bit of thickness on there. So it's, it obviously just gives you more room for your thumb to get that with this space being taken up. I hope that makes sense to you. So that's the reason for that. And then, it does, I suppose, have a little bit of a added benefit of creating a sort of a choily type thing, although it's not there. Choily, yeah, it's a technical term in knife making, choily type thing happening around your forefinger. But you can see that the lock sits further into that round area. So this is where your lock is. It sits ahead of your fingers, so your fingers aren't actually touching that lock. That in so many instances, have I got something here that might demonstrate that? Yeah, so there we go. There's that Spyderco that's been lying around for a while. There's its liner lock, and normally your finger goes right over that lock, so over the area that you would disengage the lock. In this case, in the Extrema Ratio's case, that lock sits forward of your finger. You can see it sits over there. That flat little area, that little plateau on the handle there that sits behind the ricasso, you can get your finger comfortably onto that. So if you want to choke up on the blade, so yeah, you certainly can do that comfortably. You're not close to the edge of the knife, the sharp edge of the knife, because you still got the ricasso there. And then you've probably spotted something there as I'm showing you that, is that there is no sharpening choil, and I'm sure that's going to make a whole bunch of guys who love sharpening their own knives really grumble, because that makes it an unpleasant task when you have to sharpen that blade. But yeah, no sharpening choil over there at all. Now, let's just pause here for a while. So we've got this extra piece of aluminium that's been screwed on, and that whole piece there is to make allowance, is to house that little red tab in there. Well, it's not just a little red tab, it's a lock. So what this is one of those knives that you can lock into the open position. And you know, I know that there are a few knives that do this. I know that CRKT did it on a number of their knives, and so many people have said, you know, that's just completely unnecessary. But, well, there's a couple of things. For one, aesthetically, I actually really like this. This is a military and police knife, like they say, and I think that adds to the look. So let's get the aesthetics out of the way. I like that look. I like the fact that the little code is on there and that the name is emblazoned on the outside of it, and it gives it that little bit of a, like I say, well, you know, a policey and military kind of look about it. You know, that like sort of tactical look. In fact, could even feature in a futuristic military or police type movie, and it would fit in very well, I think. Anyway, so it does appeal to me. So let's get back to the practical reason for it. And I wonder if I can show you, maybe we can get a little bit of light in there and maybe we can actually see it. So it's really difficult for me to see what you're seeing, because with the naked eye I can see it. But in there you'll see a little red tab moving backwards and forwards as I move. So I'm moving that backwards and forwards, and then you inside there you'll see a little red tab moving backwards and forwards. So when it's in the lock position, that tab really, it's just a little metal. Oh, got off screen there for a while, for a sec. Let's just try that again. When I move that to that position, that little tab has now just come in line with the lock, and all it does is it prevents that lock from shifting across like that. So when you move it that way, the tab moves out the way, and now you can disengage the lock. So that's all that whole thing does. But anyway, I like it. I like the sort of overbuilt, kind of obvious and industrial sort of look, futuristic maybe look about it. And it works. It certainly works. So it's got a very positive click, by the way. So when it releases, it clicks loose. And when it goes, well, let's try that on screen. When it releases, you can feel a click. And then when it clicks into place, it clicks. It's a positive click when it clicks in there. So it's not going to simply just slide around and flop around. But now I was looking at it and trying to think, you know, why did they go to that effort, and is it necessary? And this might be, and this is just me. It's my opinion. It's not an official standpoint. But if you're a lefty holding this knife and you do move forward on it, which is conceivable when you're working with the knife. So you grab the knife a little bit forward there. My knuckle, and I'm just going to shift it away there, is now actually resting on that lock. And without that lock in place, I can, if I grip this knife and I'm working with it, and I was doing it sort of almost naturally earlier on, but you can actually, and there I did it. So by gripping there hard, my knuckle has actually pushed that lock and disengaged it. So this might be done for those pesky lefties, you know. Can't we get rid of them? No, I'm joking. Lefties, I love you. My brother's a lefty. Nothing wrong with lefties. We need them in the world, if only to poke fun at. I'm joking, but it could be that. I can't really see it happening with a right-hander, because even if you get your knuckle at the top, you know, the angle of your finger angles away from that lock. But like I say, if you're a lefty, you could conceivably grab it, and in working with your knuckle, actually disengage that lock. So, you know, maybe it was thought through. Maybe that is there for a reason, but it's so easy to engage, and it's so nice to use. It's almost a little fidget toy there that I like it. And I am glad this exists, and I am glad that lock exists, and I'm glad they did it the way that they did it. From a looks perspective, the way it operates, yeah, I like it. So there we go. There's a whole review just spent on the lock on an Extrema Ratio BF2 CD. Okay, so what haven't I covered? The pocket clip. And if you haven't seen my review of the Extrema Ratio frame rock, first of all, why not? It was one of my first reviews, and yes, okay. It's going to take something to sit through it, but check it out. It has the same kind of pocket clip on that knife, although far more extreme. It sort of juts out further and then comes back, but it suits that specific knife the way they did it. But the exact same style of pocket clip. It is reversible. But you can see it wraps right around. Is that one going to be easier to see? Probably not. It wraps right around the outside of the knife, and that just equates to extremely deep pocket carry. So you put that in your pocket, and all you're seeing is pocket clip, a little holes drilled in it, and that's very neat. And again, it suits the look of the knife, and I think it matches the purpose of this knife, which is that that military and police style knife. And by the way, I mean you hold that, you know, there it's you know it's behind your hand, so there's no, well, even in that other frame rock where it was in your hand, it was sort of positioned in a place that wasn't uncomfortable, but it's certainly not going to bother you on this knife. By the way, the Extrema Ratio say that this design, one of the things that was considered in it was the reverse grip, and they say it's specifically designed for that reverse grip, and you can kind of see that. So get your hand in there, you can see that the thumb rests nicely at the back there in your hand. It is a very comfortable and secure way of holding that that knife, so you can do it there. And I suppose if you're about to go into a fight, you can lock it into position and you have a, in inverted commas, what's it? A fixed blade. I know, in inverted commas, I know it's not a fixed blade. I know it's never, a folding knife will never be as strong as a fixed blade, but you know what I mean. It's it kind of fixed blades it. Right, is there anything else that I need to see? And once again, I'm just scanning my notes. I mentioned that there are a few other options as well. So has this been lying there all the time? I've given you a chance to look at my beautiful Phoenix torch. Let's get that out the way. Sorry for that. So now, as you can see, they're etched onto the blade, made in Italy as well. It's always cool. So I mentioned the other options. So there's the other color options where you've got the stone washed blade, and you've got the one that's a stone washed black finish, and then this one is actually called, I mentioned it, and it's actually etched onto there. You can see Desert Warfare. How cool is that? That's why I had to buy this version, and of course those lines on there. That is just so cool. Why does something military and police? Why doesn't it have to look cool? So, oh, and by the way, this color, it's almost got a slightly goldish tint to it. You know, it is that Desert Storm kind of color, but it's a slight little goldish tint to it without being gold and without being bling. Now, getting back to what I was saying, you do get this knife in a tanto blade as well. So if you don't particularly like their style of drop point, it is in a tanto as well. And that blade kind of, at some angles, appears like it could have a recurve on it, but it actually maybe it does. Might have the very slightest recurve, but if you sharpen that out, you're not going to really notice, and I probably would just do that. But guys, yeah, I actually really like the knife. Well, I mean, obviously I do, otherwise I wouldn't have bought this one. But a great knife, check it out. And I actually really do like Extrema Ratio's products. By the way, you know, it runs on, unlock it, it runs on the bronze washers. The action on it is buttery smooth. So it's not a drop shuddy type knife because you're not on bearings. But man, is this a fidget toy. When that little detent ball clears, just that feeling there is, that's worth the entry fee. And and then the overall action is just, it is so buttery smooth. And then like I say, when it's worn in a little bit, yeah, you have to use a little bit of wrist action, but you know, you can get him to flick out very nicely. So yeah, I've enjoyed owning the knife. I like it. I would recommend it. It's something a little bit different from, you know, everything else. It looks a bit different. It feels a bit different, and great having an Italian, nicely designed Italian product with a little bit of a military and police bent to it. So now I think I am done and I can let you go. So, guys, I think that is all that I have for you today. Once again, no, it's not. I haven't spoken about the price of this guy. Stop. Come back. So in South Africa, this guy goes for 2,730 Rand, and I think Italian, pretty good steel, that sort of design, a bit unusual. I think that's pretty reasonable. But if you don't think so, go negotiate with the guys at Blades and Triggers. And then I saw him on Knife Center, but only as a pre-order for 197 US dollars. And then at Lamnia for 183 US dollars. Right. Now I've covered everything. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for popping in. Guys, and again, an appeal, please do subscribe. Please hit that bell icon. I would love you to join me more often. And other than that, you go well and God bless.